Hello and welcome. You have just tuned in to The Local Lens, the podcast from the Powell County Health Department in Kentucky, Rio.
Well, there's a saying you can in recovery that you can only keep it by giving it away. So there was so many people when I was in treatment that shared their story with me and told me about what was going on with them in the past and today, that it gave me little tiny bits of hope each time I'd hear somebody's story and see living proof that it was possible. Because before I came to treatment, I just thought I was a junkie that was going to die of drugs or end up in jail. You know, I can't say it enough. Those I thought were my two options. I didn't think there was any possibility to be where I am today, let alone 3 years ago. I didn't think that was possible.
And that is the voice of Brandon Hill from Addiction Recovery Care. Now, Brandon Hill was on our previous episode of The Local Lens with Will Arvin, where we were all talking about second chance employment. But this time around, we're going to be focusing in on Brandon's story, because this guy is a kind of a rock star in addiction recovery care, which we're going to be calling ARC quite a bit today. ARC is based out of Eastern Kentucky, but is now growing to be a statewide organization and even going into other states around Kentucky. And Brandon Hill has worked his way up in ARC, starting as a peer support specialist at one of the treatment centers, and now is working as the Deputy Chief of Staff. If you've not heard the previous episode of us talking about second chance employment in general, I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode after this one. But you can listen to this one and hear how it ended up working out for Brandon Hill specifically. He's got a really interesting story for us, so let's go on and get into that. You're listening to The Local Lens from the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky, Rio. My name is Nate Brooks, and I'll be your host for the conversation today. These are our people, using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.
Sure, my name's Brandon Hill. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff here at Addiction Recovery Care. So in my role, I'm fortunate enough to work with some of our key leaders. I help with bridging some partnerships that we have. We have a lot of partners, internal and external. I fill in some gaps where they have a lot going on. There's a lot of big ideas around here, a lot of things moving forward, so I just try to fill those gaps for them.
And Brandon himself is in long-term recovery.
I was actually spent some time in treatment with your last guest from ARC, Will Arvin. We spent some time together at one of our facilities in Catlettsburg, Kentucky.
So we are in far, far eastern Kentucky doing this interview. We are at the ARC headquarters in Louisa, Kentucky, which is just about as far east as you can get in Kentucky.
West Virginia is right out that window on the other side of the mountain there, or hill.
Okay, so yeah, I am looking at West Virginia right now.
Yes.
So we are out here in eastern Kentucky for sure. And where are you from?
Originally from Newark, Ohio,
Okay.
a little outside of Columbus. I moved down here to Flatwoods, Kentucky, eastern Kentucky here about 11 years ago. So my dad got a new job. I just got finished with college, and we all kind of migrated down this way. Dad got a new job, so everybody followed him.
You've got a look about you that I cannot even give a guess on what your age is. How old are you?
I am 37.
37. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you don't look 37
Well,
yet.
thank you.
So yeah, absolutely. So ARC has this incredible program through their recovery centers called Crisis to Career. And that's what our previous episode was about. So if you want the full details, then go back and listen to that one after this. But here's a small clip from that episode. This is Will Arvin, a Powell County native, describing some of this program.
So the Crisis to Career would be literally you getting a needle pulled out of your arm, or you pulling a needle out of your arm and coming into treatment a year later. They're going to have different programs that you can go into through that year, and they give you a job, man. They give you a job, they give you employment, they give you family, they give you love, they give you every single opportunity to not just survive, but thrive.
You heard him mention that there are several different pathways you can take in this. In Louisa, they help train people to become mechanics. They help get people to be food handler certified so they can go work in restaurants anywhere. There's even a program that helps people develop artistic skills and try to help people make a living from doing that. And then there is one of the big ones is a peer support specialist program. Trains people to be able to help other people work through their recoveries. It takes people that have lived experience themselves and puts them in a place where they can help other people find recovery. So, did you do any of the crisis to career paths or anything?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I spent, a full year in residential treatment to where I did our phase 1, our phase 2 program, our phase 3, and then was fortunate enough to earn an internship, and I chose the path of the Peer Support Academy. So I'm a certified peer support specialist with an MPI number, and I can provide services and bill Medicaid. And I learn a lot about myself, not just to facilitate group and help others, which I guess in turn goes hand in hand, but a lot about learning who I am and what I need to do for my recovery, and just really kind of found out who I am during that 6 to 8 months of my internship in the Peer Support Academy.
Okay. Why was turning around and working in addiction itself in that field, that specific field, why was that important to you?
Well, I didn't know what my plan was. My first day of treatment, I thought life as I knew it was over. And it was, but in a bad way. I thought I was never going to be employed again. I was going to have this big gap in my resume. I was going to have to explain things about my past that maybe people weren't so understanding about. So I just thought things were pretty much over for me. And at that time, it was just about living. So I was fortunate enough, though, to learn very quickly once I got in treatment with addiction recovery care that the people ahead of me, I got to see what they were going and the opportunities that were given to them and how happy they were in living a successful life. It kind of gave me a little bit of hope, inspiration that I might be able to do the same thing. So it was probably about 8 months into my treatment where I was kind of not sure what I was going to do, but I've grown to love the people that I work with, seeing others find joy and happiness and sobriety like I have, that it was just something that eventually grew and grew and grew on me, and they haven't been able to get rid of me yet. Yeah.
So this is a pretty good model for ARC as an organization because they're recruiting people that go through their program to come and work for them, which lets them offer the recovery service to even more people. And that's a very natural way for this organization to grow.
Our ultimate goal is, we are a fast growing company with big hopes of reaching as many as we can. So with that becomes job opportunities within ARC. But it's not for everybody. Everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different walk in recovery. So we want to broaden that scope of training and learning to where they can take any skill and apply that to not only addiction recovery care, but other employers, mechanics, kitchens, restaurants, cruise lines, the hospitality industry. So kind of broadening that scope to give people the best opportunity that they want to do is really the ultimate goal.
And this is one of the big things that I really respect about this program. They're giving people options to pursue what field they want to pursue. And that's a really strong way to motivate somebody to want to stay sober, because you're starting to hit at that ambition and you're trying to find people's passions and what they want to be doing with their time.
I think, when you go through this, it becomes a passion and a love to, I get my cup filled just as much as hopefully I'm filling somebody else's cup by doing what I can to help them. Not necessarily even as a peer support specialist in a group setting, but just anybody that's out there struggling. Because I've been there, I know what it's like. So it's I don't know what to say. It's hard to put into words, just how it makes you feel and what it does for you as a person, to see others succeed. It's amazing to see somebody come in at their worst, like myself, ready to die, to having a great opportunity, getting restoration with family and children, and it's coworkers are amazing here. So I think people just really build a passion for this field and love this field.
So we are about to change gears here a little bit. We're going to go on and get into Brandon Hill's story. He's got a great story to tell, so we're just going to let him tell it. Start wherever you think is appropriate to start. Tell us your story.
Okay. So I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story. I grew up in a normal home, normal family. Mom fixed dinner every night. We sat down at the dinner table. Dad coached my football, baseball, basketball, whatever team it was. So I had a normal childhood growing up. As I got a little older, I became a successful baseball player in my younger years in high school, and I put a lot of pressure on myself that I thought was pressure and expectations put on me maybe from others, but in all reality, going through recovery and learning a lot about myself, it was me putting those on myself. So I went to college. I started, using drugs as far as like what people would call recreational drugs, marijuana, some alcohol, at an early age, probably, 8th grade, 9th grade. And it then turned to a little harder drugs. But again, it wasn't a full-fledged addiction. It was just on the weekends with some friends. Didn't think much of it. But as I got older, I went to college, tried to play baseball in Northwest Ohio. And that's probably when my addiction really kind of took over. I was missing classes because I was 3 hours away from home and I'd go back home to party, or I'd be too tired to make it through the class and fall asleep, in astronomy when they turn the lights off to look at the constellations.
I've done that before.
Yeah, it was after lunch too, so yeah. I was already set up for failure with that. But, yeah. So it slowly was getting worse and worse, but at the time I would have never said I had a problem. To me, it kind of felt normal because a lot of other people were doing it. But I quickly learned that I'm a little different than everybody else. When everybody else goes home or could stop, I wasn't that person. I would continue to use and really put that first and foremost above anything else. So I always had a job. I tried to hide it from everybody. I wore a mask. I wore a bunch of different masks, just trying to not get caught in all reality. And fake people out for so long so they wouldn't maybe confront me about my problems. So it was probably, I hurt my back in high school, lifting weights for football and sports, and it wasn't real bad at the time, but with the lifestyle I was living, it kept getting worse and worse. And by the time I was, I'd say 25, I had significant back issues that was causing me pain, and I was going to doctors that probably didn't have my best interest in mind, and was prescribed a very heavy dose of prescription medications that I was completely abusing. I never had enough. They'd always run out. I'd always be trying to get them from somebody else. So that's when things really started to spiral out of control for me. I would use not only just prescription drugs, but other drugs to stay awake because the prescription drugs had made me so tired, or many reasons or excuses I would try to tell myself on why I was using other drugs. So looking back, I had gotten to a point where I had lost my job of 7 years. My parents didn't want anything to do with me. If I stepped foot on their property, they were probably going to call the cops. And I was living in a trailer with no heat, no running water, just a couple tricks from the toilet or from the sink to flush the toilet maybe 2 times a day if we were lucky. And it was a dark place. I had pretty much given up on myself. I thought that I was either going to end up in jail or dead.
How old were you
then? Probably, I was 33.
Okay.
33. And I had a friend who I had known for 10 years. We'd abused prescription drugs together. We had partied together. We were with each other every day. And he unfortunately was arrested about a year prior to what I just mentioned. And I didn't go see him. I didn't go put money on his books. I was still in that selfish, self-centered mindset that only I mattered. So I'd gotten to that point where I was living in that trailer, as I mentioned. Things were the darkest they'd ever been. And I saw him. I kind of followed him on social media, and he looked like he was doing really well. So out of desperation, I called him and just was hoping he knew the answer. I hadn't talked to him in a long time, and I asked him, what and how he was doing, and he had mentioned he was working at a rehab. And to me, that was shocking because this guy was just as bad as I was, partying just as much as I was, using just as many drugs as I was. And it looked like he had really turned his life around. So he started telling me about this place where he got clean and sober, which came to find out that it's only about 15 minutes from my house. And I had no clue it was there. I guess I wasn't looking for it either, but I had no clue it was there. So he was smart. He wanted to help me, but he kept an arm's length away because at that time I was dangerous to his sobriety. So he did everything he could for me to help me get what he had, which was some joy and happiness and sobriety. So he told me about the place he was working at. He told me what I needed to do, and he'd do anything he could to help me get in to treatment. So out of desperation, I agreed to it. I didn't have any other option. Like I'd mentioned, my other options I thought were jail or death. So he got me into treatment. And that's where I'd mentioned I spent a whole year in residential treatment with addiction recovery care. I had learned who I was, what I enjoyed, what I was good at. I learned so many things about myself that helped me to this day to stay clean and sober. It's hard to talk about because it was such a dark time.
I'm going to butt in real quick and say that this is a concern I have a lot when I'm interviewing people who have history with addiction, because you are touching some sensitive topics.
Well, there's a saying you can in recovery that you can only keep it by giving it away. So there were so many people when I was in treatment that shared their story with me. And told me about what was going on with them in the past and today, that it gave me little tiny bits of hope each time I'd hear somebody's story and see living proof that it was possible. Because before I came to treatment, I just thought I was a junkie that was going to die of drugs or end up in jail. I can't say it enough. Those I thought were my two options. I didn't think there was any possibility to be where I am today, let alone 3 years ago. I didn't think that was possible.
But now he is working in the corporate offices of a statewide organization, and one that is very effective in their work. Been working your way up here. How long have you been working for ARC, on staff here?
Yeah, so it was January 9th, 2018 when I entered treatment. Like I said, I did the whole gamut, the whole year, to give myself the best opportunity to never have to go through that again. And I was employed January 14th 2019, a year later. And I started out working at the same place that I found Sobriety, right down the road in Catlettsburg, right outside of Ashland. And I started out as a residential admissions specialist. So helping the guys come in, doing their paperwork, getting them everything they needed, settled in. I was blessed to be the first person they got to see and meet when they came to our house. Quickly, about a month later, a spot had opened up as the office manager there. So I gladly took that opportunity to further my knowledge and experience in the behavioral health field. And I did that for about a year, 10 months to a year. And after that 10 months or a year, I was given the opportunity to come up to the corporate setting in the operations department. And there I started out as an operations assistant, where I worked very closely with the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. And that was probably for about 6 months, I think. It's changed. I've changed a lot of roles here, so the timelines get a little fuzzy. Yeah. But it was about 6 months. And at that time, the company kind of did a little shift in their structure of the organization. And that COO that I had worked with for 6 months took a different role as a senior vice president of strategy and innovation. It's kind of a new department, a new realm that we were spending more focus on. So I followed him and became a data strategy and data specialist. Did that for maybe 6 months as well. And then was fortunate enough to be offered the opportunity to become the deputy chief of staff, which I am today. And I've been in this role for maybe close to 4 months. Okay. Time flies around here. There's so much going on and busy, and the timelines get a little fuzzy because it doesn't seem as long as what it is.
And this is what I believe is known as a success story, an incredible success story, actually. And it makes me wonder how similar that is for other people working at ARC. You're in recovery.
Yes,
How
sir.
many of the other people in like the corporate office would you think? Like, is there like a percentage of people or anything you would say?
Overall, roughly 50% of our employees are in recovery themselves. And of that 50%, I think it's roughly 30 to 40%, 30 to 35% are addiction recovery care graduates who'd gone through the program here, spent their whole year, did the internship, and were employed after that 1 year of treatment.
Okay.
So quite a few.
So what does that mean then for ARC to have like half of the people helping run it know what it's like to be receiving, at least maybe not the ARC treatment itself, but like just
sure
to be in recovery? So
I think we have a little different life experience than others, and having gone through that treatment has, what used to be the dark spot, the untalked about in my life, has become one of my strengths, because I'm able to articulate or to give my side of what something may look like to one of our clients. And ultimately, that's what addiction recovery care is about, is our clients, serving our clients to give them the best opportunity to discover hope and live out their God-given destiny. So that unique experience that we bring that are in recovery, I think has been instrumental in addiction recovery care being successful as far as helping as many clients as we can find sobriety. And it's more than sobriety. It's a lot more than just being sober. But that's, where it starts.
What's it about?
It's about life, enjoying life, relationships you build with your family and restore with your family, getting married, having children, being a dad again to the children that you had an addiction that maybe you didn't spend much time with, because ultimately, drugs or alcohol are first and foremost. It's a very self-centered, selfish disease. So, I've found joy, peace, happiness, pride in what I do and who I am today. So I can go on and on with that list, but it's a lot more than just being sober. There's all kinds of sayings in recovery, but one that really stuck with me is my best day in active addiction isn't even close to my worst day today. My worst days today are by far nothing compared to what it was. So it's a total metanoia. It's a mind change. It's a big shift for the positive when you can find all those things I just mentioned.
Well, that's pretty much all the time that we have today. I want to urge you, if you find this information helpful, if you find this story uplifting, we want you to be sharing this with people who you think need to hear this stuff.
Hopefully somebody hears this and knows that there's a better way to live, that it is possible. Because again, for the longest time, I didn't think it was possible. I had to see it from other people right in front of my face to give me a little bit of hope that it could help me. So I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate what you guys do. And I hope you enjoy your time here in Louisa with Addiction Recovery Care.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Well, all right. We'll cut this thing off and call it a good day. Huge thank you to Brandon Hill. We wouldn't be able to do the show if people like you weren't stepping up to share their stories. So you're incredible. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to ARC, Addiction Recovery Care, for doing your incredible work. Also, big thanks to WSKV, the radio station that is broadcasting our show. And thanks to the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky Rio for sponsoring the show and making sure that it goes on. I'm your host, Nate Brooks. Thank you all for tuning in once again. This is The Local Lens. These are our people, using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.